Hey everybody, welcome to Dissecting Cinema. I'm Zena S. Dixon from RealQueenOfHorror.com, and I'm here with Chris Rennirt from SpaceJockeyReviews.com. Chris, how are you doing this Sunday?
I am doing just fine. There's a little snow and ice outside here in Kentucky today, but I'm doing just fine.
Okay, I hope you're staying warm.
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, before we jump into tonight's dissecting, we have a guest with us, a very close friend of mine. We've been friends since middle school, and we actually had many movie dissections of our own. She's a film lover and an inspiring filmmaker, and just all around awesome. Shardae, if you could introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Shardae, as Zena said, and yes, just Shardae. I am anonymous, kind of like Prince, Madonna, maybe Beyonce. But anyway, I am co-hosting today's Dissecting Cinema with Miss Zena, who, like she said, I've known for quite some time, and with Chris, who I've just recently met, but who I am looking forward to reviewing today's film with. So this is actually my first public film review, and I'm virtually unknown around these parts. So I'll just tell you guys a little bit about myself. Like Ms. Zena said, I am a film buff who appreciates all kinds of movies, old, new, black and white, futuristic, horror, comedy, drama, silent, you name it, and chances are that I will love it. But even if I don't, I'll pretty much watch any movie with an open mind at least once. So I'll probably get laughed at by many, many people, and that's okay. But while it's not my only favorite, it's my top pick. So my favorite horror film is circa 1995 from Tales from the Crypt, and it's the movie titled Demon Knight, which stars Billy Zane, who is hot, yum, and and Jada Pinkett Smith. So don't ask me why I love it so much because I don't really know. It's just great because it is. I first saw it when I was in like the second grade, and instead of being afraid of the movie, I was pretty intrigued, and I've loved it ever since. So I guess that was the beginning of my horror debut. And lastly, I am going to school for something completely different, but my dream is to write screenplays and be a filmmaker. So even if I end up having to do it as kind of a side gig, I will accomplish my goal of being a filmmaker. I've made short films here and there, but long ago, when mini tapes were used to record camcorder media, I kind of accidentally taped over my films, and now they're lost forever, which sucks.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
oh, right, sigh. But there's plenty more ideas where those came from, and perhaps even some remakes in the future. So, enough about me. Let's talk about our starring film for the review.
okay. Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction.
yes, that was excellent.
Alrighty, guys. So today's movie that we are dissecting is ThanksKilling. It was made in 2009 and it was directed by Jordan Downey. So the year is 1621, the olden days. Moments after the first Thanksgiving, Native Americans decided to put a curse on the Pilgrims by creating a demon possessed turkey that kills white people. Yes, just white people. Let's
yeah,
skip
yes.
let's skip hundreds of years to the present day, or more like 2009, where five hardcore, stereotypical college students are going camping. I'm sure we all know what's going to happen next. The college students run into the filthy mouth turkey, and from then on, it's just a slaughter fest. So, Shardae, since you are our guest, what are your thoughts on this beautiful creation?
Beautiful indeed. So basically, before watching any film, I typically go check out reviews from critics and normal viewers just to kind of see what the overall consensus was. And not that I choose whether or not to watch a movie based on the perceptions of others, but it just kind of helps me to gauge whether or not my high expectations are warranted. But however, since I knew I was going to be reviewing this film, I didn't seek out those prior reviews just because I didn't want to chance being biased before I even watched it, and I wanted to be able to judge it fairly. So the first thing is that I realized that this film has kind of a comical and satirical twist to it, even as a horror film. But that having been said, this movie was probably one of the biggest wastes of an hour and so minutes of my life. Like, I tried. I tried, but I just couldn't take it seriously after the unfounded and meaningless opening shot of voluptuous boobs frolicking all over my face. Like, as the little pilgrim lady tried escaping her fate with the turkey. Like, she didn't even seem to be trying hard enough. Her facial expressions weren't believable. Um, so that's pretty much my overview of the film. There were a lot of mistakes made in the film, but I know that this wasn't a big budget movie by any means. It's not a multi-million-dollar picture. But I just felt like they could have done a little bit better. I know it's a D movie, but being that the storyline was not all that great, I felt like if the acting had been better, the movie might have been a little more acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been a little more deserving of my time. But the acting was just really bad, and they were over dramatic at times. And then at the times where they really needed to be dramatic, they weren't. It was totally backwards to me.
Okay. And Chris, what about you?
As you might imagine, I am often a fan of movies like this in some cases. So when you first told me about this movie and I heard the title, I thought, how could this ever be a good movie? I actually thought it was surely, and yes, I'll go ahead and be the first one to say this, a real turkey of a movie. But since I know of no other horror movie for Thanksgiving, and I didn't think there were any actually, I definitely wanted to give it a chance. Having done that, I'm almost hesitant to say, after listening to what you've had to say, that I really enjoyed it. It was surprisingly better than I expected it to be, and going into it with anywhere from 0 to extremely low expectations, it was almost impossible to be disappointed from the start. And with a running time of just 66 minutes, it is long enough to technically be a feature-length film. It doesn't overstay its welcome at that length, for me anyway. For what it's worth, it's pretty tightly edited, and it doesn't have any scenes that seem gratuitous, at least not in the context of its plot. A movie like this would actually get really boring really fast if it tried to add drama and seriousness to something otherwise so ridiculous. And I love the totally original idea of having a revenge-hungry Thanksgiving turkey as the main character of a serial killer holiday slasher. Originality always scores big points with me in horror, and this one did it immediately, even as ridiculous as it was. And the humor, corny and often vulgar as it was, really made it work on the level of just being funny, and it really saved the movie. I feel like overall it accomplished what it was trying to do, what it wanted to be, which was a very tongue-in-cheek, rudely humorous, original movie filling an otherwise empty niche, and it surely satisfies, I'd say, a cult-sized following of people who like that sort of thing, like me. And again, although this may seem as shallow as the movie, it scores extra points with me for just being the only Thanksgiving-themed horror film out there, as far as I know.
Okay.
So that's what I think, just as an opener.
Okay.
I have criticisms, but those
Oh,
will
of
come.
course.
Those will
Of
come a
course.
little later.
Well, for me, I just thought this movie was ridiculous. And like you all, I'm willing to watch anything, and I don't have a problem, sitting there and wasting my life sometimes with some movies. But surprisingly, even though this movie, it was stupid, it was very stupid. I'm sorry, and that just sounds horrible. It was entertaining. And after watching it, I watched it about 3 times. And after watching it during the week and then even today, I'm pretty sure it was meant to be a comedy horror. There was some things that I thought was very creative, like you did say also, Chris, especially with the killing turkey. I've never heard of that before. I don't know. I like when directors are creative, especially when they're independent, and sometimes you have to be.
Yes.
So that kind of, I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I just said yes, I agree.
Okay. That kind of leads me into just a question that I have for you both. Do you think that the director, that this was his goal it seems like it was supposed to be a comedy horror, and it has such a strong following. Do you think that that was one of his goals?
I think
I guess
definitely so. Go ahead. Go ahead, Shardae.
I was just gonna say I think so. I agree. I think that was one of the goals because there's too many one-liners and zingers and jokes in there and cliches for it to not be meant to be a comedy.
Mm-hmm. Chris?
Yes. Well, absolutely. It's like Shardae just said. The one-liners were just so prolific in this movie. It was one after another. I couldn't keep up with all of it, and they were funny.
Mm-hmm.
They made me laugh. I actually made a list of them, but of course I can't repeat half of them on this show because they're so crude and nasty. But but they were funny, and it's neat how they so often connected to the bird references. There's the foul mouth,
Mm-hmm.
blank blank and stuff. I thought it was some pretty clever, memorable stuff that I liked.
Okay. Another question I did have it's about the music. I enjoyed the music. It made me laugh.
Me.
And
Yes, yes.
my favorite one would have to be the song about Billy. That was a great
Yeah,
song.
yeah, that was great.
I wish I knew a Billy. I would sing it to him, but I don't.
Well, what was neat about that is it was one of those big budget effects. You
Hmm.
have a movie like this, you don't expect it to have its own song, an original song, to break out into this montage of music and scenes from the past. He starts that out saying something like, I remember when I bought you your first ice cream cone, and it just becomes so poignant.
Hmm.
It's in such as we've said, such an otherwise ridiculous movie makes this attempt at being very emotional.
Right.
And even though it really isn't, it's funny in the attempt. And I laughed. I really did.
Yeah,
I thought it was
I did too. It was hilarious. Do any of you guys have any questions you'd like to ask? If not, I have plenty. So,
Shardae, you want to go first?
I didn't really have very many questions. I had more like criticisms, but one question, one question that I did have was, understanding that the turkey in the movie was kind of invincible in a way, but still, it's a turkey. And at one point, you
Yeah,
have
right.
people surrounding this turkey. So Billy finally does something that makes sense, right? And attacks the turkey. But the other people standing in the room can't seem to just jump in there and help him. There's four people against a turkey. What's with that? They can't kill one turkey. They can't even attempt to kill one turkey.
Right. The movie lost, I mean, it had no credibility from the start, of course, but it lost levels of credibility for me, believe it or not, beginning with when the turkey visits the sheriff disguised as a
yes.
midget and has tea with him at the house. A demonically possessed turkey talking and acting like a human, no less, is already stretching things. But when otherwise normal people can't tell the difference between a turkey and a human, even a midget human, I start to really scratch my head. But I did overlook that at first just because the movie was, as we've said, so ridiculous. I overlooked it because it was funny. But then what took me to yet another level of scratching my head a little harder was when they push it further, having the turkey answer the door at the sheriff's house, disguised as the sheriff. Uh, even though the turkey was literally wearing I shouldn't give that away, but he was wearing something that should have really given him away even more.
Right.
They again have they're not able to tell the difference between the sheriff and the turkey when there were feathers visible and he was looking like a turkey. So just as I started to have these serious criticisms again, I reminded myself again that this is a movie about a talking, serial-killing turkey, and it is not to be taken seriously. From the
Right.
very beginning, anything is possible in this movie, and that's all part of the fun and ultimately even the ironic success and charm of the movie for me.
Hmm.
If you take it too seriously, and you'll just spoil all the fun, really.
Right.
And I wanted to have fun.
That is a good point to make.
Yes.
While you're watching it, you have to remind yourself that. I'm sorry, I have another question.
Okay.
I do. It actually has to do with scenes that stood out for you guys. Since you mentioned it, Chris, I actually love that scene when the turkey answered the door at the sheriff's house.
Yeah.
I was so aggravated at first. Like, I was talking to the TV because I couldn't believe it, because the girl was actually bending down and having a conversation with the turkey, thinking that it's her dad. And it just seemed normal, but it was funny, and you got to remember that.
Well, and we also have to remember, as it is proudly displayed on the box cover, that this movie was made with just $3,500.
Yes.
If that's true, that's also pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just have to keep reconnecting myself to all of those things. Even though it's putting itself out there to be judged just like anything else, I still can't get by that budget. It's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually had another question for you guys, and that would be a simple one. Who was you guys' favorite character in the film?
I don't know the girl's name, and I know that this is obviously there was only two of them. It was the one who was kind of more skinkier than the other girl.
That was Allie.
Thank you. I liked her because she was so over the top, with that stereotype of being that girl who puts her stuff out there and just wants to sleep around and party.
Yeah.
And just the way she was talking, it made me laugh, and some of her lines. And some of her lines were really over the top. I mean, just like everybody else, but I don't know. Hers just, it stood out.
One of the lines that stands out is when she says, "Wow, Kristen, you're like almost as dumb as I am." And then there's something she says at a campfire scene I won't repeat here, but I'll just leave that to whoever watches it.
Well, my favorite was actually Darren, the nerdy guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked him just because he was so ambitious, When he's kind of the one who figured the whole thing out before the movie started. So he kind of started the plot off. And then I just liked that he was really ambitious because, he was like, oh, I'm going to party, I'm going to do this. And then he was like, I'm going to ghost ride the whip. That was just really funny to me. That was hilarious. So he was my favorite.
For me, I have to count the turkey as a character, especially because he was personified so incredibly much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be the turkey for me. He's what made the movie.
He did.
As far as actual human characters, I agree with you, Zena. For me, it was the ditzy female character, Allie, because she seemed to even go beyond what I have previously seen that type of character portrayed as in other movies. It was just a lot of funny stuff there.
Right. Since we're on the topic of characters, did anyone have a least favorite character?
I'll just say real quick, my least favorite character was the main character, Johnny, because he, I think, did the least impressive job. Well, impressive is not the word to use, but the worst job of acting in the movie. He had the biggest opportunity to be more expressive and make more out of the movie in that sense, but he was very wooden. The acting was very flat, really flat, much more even worse than the others.
Yeah.
I agree with your statements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was going to say Johnny too, but then you guys reminded me of the naked pilgrim woman.
Okay.
So she was my least favorite.
And her name was Wanda Lust, actually, in the credits, yes.
Does she do porn?
I wondered about that, actually, because she's got a name for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
She definitely does.
Sitting up there on her chest.
Yeah. That scene, it was interesting because the movie, again, on the cover of the DVD I have, it tells you that there is nudity in the first second. And there is. And then, true to the to that. There is in the it opens up and we have this otherwise puritanically dressed woman as a pilgrim, and there's just that's got to be the most gratuitous example of nudity that I've seen, really.
For me too. I
But there was no more in the movie. When that happened, I thought, gosh, this is going to be loaded with it,
yes.
because
Right.
lots of those movies do, because they feel they have to make up for it, market it that way. But there was no more.
Right. That's what I thought too. And even when I've came across a lot of people who really, really love this movie. Of course, no offense, Chris, I'm sorry. They were all men. And, the
Yeah.
first couple of seconds, I'm like, okay, well, now I know why you love it. So from then on out, there's going to be more. I mean, besides from that scene with Allie
Yeah.
and the turkey,
Right.
yeah, you're absolutely right. There was no more nudity or anything. And that's surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising. That was, as a matter of fact, when I saw that at the beginning, I thought it really lowered my expectations, because I thought they were going to rely too much on that. And then it just turned out to have enough humor going for it that it didn't need it. But also, I noticed on some of the, it did really well with customer reviews on Amazon.com. And that's one reason I went ahead and bought it after you told me about it. I thought, wow, if it's a Thanksgiving horror movie with a serial killing turkey, that sounds interesting. But I didn't want to buy it just based on that. And then when I saw all the
Right.
good reviews, I thought, wow, this is doing pretty well, maybe.
Well, do anyone have any more questions or even observations that you may have come across?
One of the observations that I had was one of the parts, as far as the gore goes, when the turkey was kind of what do you call it? Trying to hitch a ride on the side of the road there, and the guy pulled over and ends up getting killed. You notice that the guy gets shot or whatever, and you kind of see the blood splatter on the windshield. But then it cuts away, and when it cuts back, there's no blood at all.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but as the car is driving off, you can clearly see that there's a man in there, like a man driving the car instead of the turkey. So I actually just thought that was kind of funny. I know it was a mistake there, but I thought it was funny.
I didn't even notice that. I'll have to go back and watch that just so I can laugh. But Chris, did you have any?
Yes. I thought, again, as ridiculous as the movie was overall, I was thinking of how incredibly stupid the people were in this case in not trying to get the help of any authorities. And there was really no reason they couldn't contact the police. I thought they could have thrown something in there to make that a little more believable. Not that it really made a huge amount of difference to me, but I would like to have seen that. Because, I guess the first time they realized that the turkey is real is when Johnny has the very traumatic experience with his dad. And he just goes back and tells them, yeah, the turkey's real. And doesn't even think about calling the police.
Just a question. Would you guys recommend this film to any of your family or friends? Shardae?
I have a couple of friends that I would recommend it to. Personally, my family, they're just not big on movies, period. So I wouldn't even try with them. But as far as my friends go, I have one who's just really weird, and he would probably like this kind of thing. So there are a few friends that I would recommend it to if I knew that they already liked it. But I wouldn't recommend it on a, oh my gosh, I loved it, you have to see this, you cannot die before seeing this type basis.
Right. And Chris?
I would not recommend it to my family. Absolutely not. They don't. I think I'm the only person in my family that likes movies like this. But yes, I have a lot of friends who would probably get a pretty good kick out of it, actually.
Wow, that's actually the opposite of me. I would recommend it to my family because I know that they would love it in a mean kind of way, not like love it. This is the best movie ever. Let's watch this so we can laugh. That kind of love. But as far as it goes with friends, no, they would probably not even be my friend anymore if I said to them, "Hey, you should watch this movie. You have to watch it on Thanksgiving. It's wonderful." They definitely would not listen.
Word.
So I do have some facts about the movie that I was going to share with you guys.
Okay.
So the first one is it is an independent comedy horror. I've read in a couple of interviews with the director that he likes to put comedy first and horror second. So we were right about that. The other thing is Forbes magazine said about this movie, if you enjoy laughing at bad movies, definitely add this one to your list. And I'm not too sure if you guys heard about this, but we've all at one point heard of Kickstarter. And if you haven't, it's basically where you can get a project of yours funded by other people who believe or want to see your project fully complete. ThanksKilling sequel was funded on Kickstarter. They had about 466 people who donated money, and they basically achieved their budget, which was $100,000, and they had about $12,000 to spare.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yes, and
Well,
even what's that?
now, I was going to say about that, when I looked up the movie on, well, at the end of this movie, it does give that little
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood snippet of something to come if you watch it till all the way to the end. And it says that the next one will happen in space.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew there was a sequel, and I looked it up on IMDb, and there's only a ThanksKilling 3.
See,
So what I read about that one is the movie is about them searching for the lost copy of ThanksKilling 2.
right?
I don't. Apparently, that's the case. So.
Yes, and that was one of my facts. Like once
Oh,
I
okay.
found that out, I didn't even bother reading why they skipped part two. I just shut off my computer and moved on in life.
Oh, I
I
thought
didn't
you.
even want to know.
Well, I thought you were going to say you just shut off your computer and somehow found a way to see ThanksKilling 3. But
No, but I am pretty curious about it.
I am
Um,
too. I
hmm.
am too. Actually, I
Mhm.
think I think I will have to see it. At
I think
first, I
I will
thought,
too.
no way do I
Hmm.
need to see another one. But I think, especially after our conversation today, I'm really fired up about it. I want to see the
Right.
next one.
I say we all should give it a try, especially you, Shardae. You should
Right.
watch it.
Hey,
Uh,
anything, anything at least once.
On the upside, whereas most sequels to horror films are terrible, they're much worse than their original. This one doesn't have much to lose.
hmm.
It
Mhm.
couldn't
Absolutely.
be any worse. So,
That is a good way to look at it. Well, the last fact that I have is it's like a fact of my own. I'm not very good at math, but it just wasn't sounding right to me, so I had to take it on my own and I had to, find out for myself. So I don't know if you guys remembered when the turkey was having tea with the sheriff. He said that he's about 500 years old, right?
oh, yes.
And when the movie first started, it was in 1621. But then here we are in 2009. And when you do the math, it only comes up to 388. So why did he get his age wrong? Was that done on purpose? And I know it's so tiny and it's like, who cares? But it's just like, I don't know. I just had to tell you guys. Somebody needed to know.
Hmm. That's actually a very interesting fact.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm kind of I'm kind of wondering because I don't quite remember the very very beginning of the film. After the Pilgrim scene, I
Mhm.
don't. I know they were saying that it's clearly it's the present day, but I'm wondering if it's the present day, but it's not literally 2009 in the movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yes, it came out in 2009, but maybe it's sometime further down the road in the future, you know?
Maybe.
Just a thought. Just a thought.
I was wondering how old the turkey was, too. I know this, he is supposed to come back to carry out this curse every 505 years. And this is the first time he's been back. I didn't do the math to subtract it backwards like you did to check it, and that's interesting. But I was wondering, he comes back every 505 years. And how old did he say he was?
About 510.
510. Okay. Well, there you go. If he comes back every 505 years, and he's 510, then I guess what I was also thinking about was how old was the turkey at the time that the curse was placed upon him? He must have been 5 years old. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Gentleman, our resident mathematician.
I don't do well in math too often, so I always stop and wait for the compliment when I do.
Neither do I. I recently posted up a picture on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it. It had like a ridiculous math problem on there. Let me see if I could just pull that up for you guys because it made me laugh. And it's the story of my life whenever I'm reading a math problem.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so basically, the question is, if you have 4 pencils and I have 7 apples, how many pancakes will fit on the roof? And then the answer is purple because aliens don't wear hats. And it's like, I know that's just random and it's just all over the place, but I was just so bad at math. Like, oh. Anyway.
Well, I like that math problem you just. I think I'll have to look for that on Facebook and do something with it myself.
So we can go into some quotes that stood out for us.
Well, we can go into the ones that can. Yeah, I've got a whole page of them, but I just don't know.
I don't have a whole page. I only have 1 or 2, so I'll go ahead and get mine out the way, and I'll save yours for the best for last. You know?
Okay.
I just had one that I thought was really funny. That came from the guy that we all thought was the worst actor, but I don't know, just something that he said because he said it with such seriousness. He was like, "Just calm the F down, Jesus, we're in the woods. This kind of beep happens." And I just thought it was really funny because, no, rabbit heads don't get chopped off and come flying at you all the time. No, it doesn't happen.
Well, any more, Shardae?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I let you go, or I'm glad you went first because actually I liked how you added that bleep in there to cut out the word because otherwise I didn't know, I hadn't thought of that. I didn't know how I was going to even say half the things I got on here. I'll just have to censor myself. Well, I got it. This one was probably my favorite, and it's sort of a dialogue here. And this is something I can't believe we skipped over. Me too. But, Kristen, in a way, I'm kind of glad all this happened. If not, I wouldn't have gotten this close to you. I may not have even lost my parents, but I gained a girlfriend.
Right.
I mean, think of, just such a boneheaded thing, but it's funny. And then he follows it up by, "Kristen, will you go out with me?" Mm-hmm. So, and with the thing that I meant to talk about is how, at the end, how quickly, after all of this death of all their friends and family, they just, high-fiving and just go right back into, hey, let's go back and watch, some movies and have popcorn and everything's just all happy again, so... Let's see. I don't even know whether a bleep is going to work with that one. Okay, well, I really liked the gravy flavored condom. I really liked that. I thought that was funny. Yeah, she's dead, and I found this in there. It's a bloody feather and an extra small gravy flavored condom. That was just some original stuff there too.
Very original.
I laughed at that too. I was like, gravy.
Yeah. And okay, let's kick this foul mouth. The foul mouth. That's what I was getting to with how they connected a lot of the one-liners to this bird, these bird references. So, what about you, Zena?
Well, I only just had two. One was from the Killer Turkey, and he would just say "gobble gobble, mother effer."
Oh yeah, okay. There you go.
That was funny because that was unexpected, for me.
Yeah.
Then the last one was, of course, from my favorite Billy. When they were looking for through Kristen's dad's huge collection of books. And she was like, we can look through my dad's, collection of books. I'm sure he has something on the Killer Turkey. And Billy says, I hate books. Why can't it just tell us what to do, And it's just, he made me laugh. He was really funny.
And then I liked when the turkey said, your dog had an accident. And he said, what kind of accident? Well, I took this here axe and I accidentally cut him. Get it? Accident.
They did do a good job with his humor.
Yeah.
So now we're finally coming down to the rating. So, Shardae, we would like to know what you would rate it and just any more thoughts that you may have on this little film.
If I had to rate it 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a 6. And I say 6 only because, the movie was kind of crude, but you kind of expect it. You expect it because of the title. You expect it when you see the turkey. You expect it because of the opening of the scene. It's clearly meant to be comical, so you can't really downgrade it because of that. It's meant to be comical. It is funny. That's something that I can admit. But it just has a lot of bad acting, and that's just kind of one of the things that's one of my peeves. It's like you can have the worst script and the worst storyline, but if you have a great actor or actress, it can turn into a really great movie. So that's why I give it a 6.
Okay. And Chris?
Well, I'm very impressed, Shardae, and I agree. I give it 6 of my Space Jockey rockets.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, as I said before, I thought it did everything that it intended to do, and I thought the acting was pretty good for what it needed to be in a movie like that, except again for that main character, Johnny. I thought it was a Space Jockey success, mostly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to give it 3.5 Queen Skulls, which I think is pretty good. I was expecting to give it a half a star, but pretty much I say that because even though it was ridiculous, I did enjoy it. It was entertaining and it made me laugh. It was really, really enjoyable, especially if you're not having the best day. And I don't think when I first watched it, I was having the greatest day. But once I put that on, I felt a lot better. So it's like, if you are in the mood for a funny movie and you're willing to just turn your brain off for like an hour, this is definitely a good movie to watch. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I should have thrown this in under my rating, but I always like to end my reviews and even the show with an actual conclusion. And I will, and you can add one too if you want. You will probably want to after I do this to counter it. But I'm even compelled to write a review of this movie now. So at the end of my review, you're probably going to read this. But my conclusion is Thanksgiving is a surprisingly enjoyable holiday slasher, slicing off generous portions of humor, gore, originality, and holiday cheer, or perhaps I should say fear. While certainly not for all tastes, This turkey is one best served only to the most devoted lovers of esoteric cinema. It's a low-budget butterball without the trimmings. I say carve it up and check it out.
All right.
Wow, Chris.
Okay, now let's... I just had to do that because it's already a review I've started for a movie I never thought I would review. So there you go. That's a sneak peek at it.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You need a side gig. Somebody needs to do a job.
You know, I don't know if have any of you guys seen Jack Frost?
With the snowman.
Yes.
Yes, I saw
about the snowman who comes to life.
Yes.
I mean, what's that?
I have not seen it, although I've seen enough pictures, screenshots from it, one in particular, that I want to see it. And it seems that it could fall into the same, I guess, category as ThanksKilling. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that that should be something that we look out for.
I will.
So maybe review.
I will look out for that, yes.
All right, guys. Well, that was Dissecting Cinema. I hope that everybody enjoyed it. I know that I enjoyed talking about this ridiculous movie. It's always a good time to just come on here and just talk about movies, especially ones that are ridiculous, but yet I cannot seem to get enough of them. It's like I live for them.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I got to say, in this case, I've found a new movie that has a very good place here in my collection now on the shelf with all the other holiday films. So it's like nothing other, none other that well, that's going to get edited. It's like no other movie I have.
Ditto. It's like no other movie, that's for sure. I've enjoyed reviewing it as well. I have to admit.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on, Shardae. We had a great time.
Yes, thank you for being here, Shardae. I really appreciate you joining us.
No problem at all. Thank you for bearing with me through my first review.
Yeah. Oh, you did great.
Yeah, come back anytime.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.